It was supposed to be one of those easy breezy mornings, the kind where a celebrity guest walks into a studio, chats about their new project, shares a few laughs with the hosts, and leaves with a pocket full of goodwill from the audience. Blake Shelton had been through this routine countless times before. He knew the Today Show set like the back of his hand. Every light, every camera angle, every familiar smile from the crew. Over the years, he had developed a comfortable rapport with the hosts. They'd rib him about his country boy roots, he'd throw in a few self-deprecating jokes, and they'd send him off with warm applause. That was the plan for today, or so he thought. From the moment he stepped into NBC's towering Rockefeller Center headquarters, something felt off. The air in the hallways seemed heavier, less buoyant. The usual friendly greetings from staff were replaced with polite nods and quick glances away. There was a hum of activity, but it carried an undercurrent, an edge that Blake couldn't quite name. He shrugged it off, attributing it to the hectic pace of live television. After all, the Today Show team had a million moving parts to juggle before airtime. As he made his way toward the set, a production assistant gave him the standard pre-interview rundown. Timing cues, the segment order, a reminder about the live camera count, but even the PA's tone was clipped, businesslike, lacking the casual chatter Blake was accustomed to. When he finally stepped onto the set, the shift in atmosphere became impossible to ignore. Jenna Bush was already seated at the sleek, polished interview table, her hands folded neatly in front of her. Normally, she would have popped up to greet him with a hug, her signature Texas warmth on full display. Today, she offered a smile, but it was tight around the edges, almost rehearsed. Next to her, Carson Daly sat hunched over a stack of notes, flipping through pages without looking up. Blake noticed his brow furrowed in concentration, or was it discomfort? Then there was the third chair. It was occupied by a woman Blake didn't recognize. She appeared to be in her mid-30s, dressed in a crisp blazer, her posture perfectly upright. Her dark hair framed a face that was all sharp lines and sharp eyes, the kind that seemed to size up a person in an instant. In front of her was a notepad filled with dense scribbles, the kind of hurried, aggressive handwriting that suggested more than just casual preparation. "Blake, good to see you again," Jenna said, her voice carrying a strange weight. "Please have a seat. I'd like you to meet our new contributor, Sarah Martinez. She'll be joining us for today's conversation." Blake's trademark grin flickered across his face as he settled into the chair opposite them. "Well, hey there, Sarah. Nice to meet you. I have to say, the energy feels a little different in here today. Everything okay?" Sarah leaned forward slightly, her pen already poised above the notepad. "Mr. Shelton, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I understand you have a new album coming out, and we'll certainly talk about that. But before we do, I think our viewers deserve some answers about your recent behavior." The smile vanished from Blake's face. "My recent behavior." His tone was calm, but the confusion in his eyes was unmistakable. "I'm not sure what you're getting at." Jenna shifted in her seat. "Blake, there have been concerning reports about incidents during your last tour. Multiple sources have come forward with allegations regarding your treatment of opening acts, particularly female performers." Blake's jaw tightened. "What sources? What allegations? This is the first I'm hearing about any of this." Carson finally looked up from his notes. "Are you saying you're completely unaware of the complaints that have been filed against you by members of your touring crew?" "Complaints?" Blake's voice rose slightly. "Nobody has filed anything against me. What kind of setup is this?" Sarah's gaze sharpened. "So you're denying that you've created a hostile work environment for female staff members on your tours?" Blake pushed back from the table, rising to his feet. His hands were balled into fists at his sides. "I'm denying whatever twisted narrative you're trying to spin here. I worked with the same crew for years. They're like family to me." "Sit down, Blake," Jenna said firmly. "We're not done here." "Actually, I think we are," Blake replied, still standing. His Oklahoma drawl grew thicker as his frustration mounted. "Lady, I don't know who you think you are, but you clearly don't know the first thing about me or how I run my business." Carson's eyes lit up as he leaned back in his chair, almost savoring the tension. "Blake, the allegations suggest a pattern of inappropriate comments and behavior toward younger female performers. Care to respond to that?" "Inappropriate comments?" Blake's face flushed red. "Are you out of your mind? I've mentored dozens of young artists, men and women. I've helped launch careers, not destroy them." Jenna lifted a sheet of paper from her stack. "We have sworn statements from 3 women who worked on your tours last summer. They paint a very different picture of you than America knows." "Sworn statements?" Blake's voice cracked. "From who? Show me these statements. Let me see who's making these accusations." Sarah shook her head. "We're protecting their identities, for obvious reasons, but their stories are remarkably consistent." "Consistent lies are still lies," Blake shot back. "This is character assassination on live television." The camera zoomed in on Blake's face, catching every flicker of emotion, disbelief, anger, the sharp sting of betrayal. His usual composed media persona was gone, replaced by something raw and unguarded. "One of the women claims you told her that her outfit was too conservative for country music and that she needed to show more skin if she wanted to make it." Blake's mouth fell open. "I never would say something like that to anyone. That goes against everything I believe in." "Another source says you made comments about her figure during a sound check in front of the crew." "This is insane," Blake muttered, raking a hand through his hair. "Absolutely insane. Where is this coming from?" "Blake," Jenna said gently, "these women have nothing to gain by coming forward. They're risking their careers. And I'm risking mine just by sitting here letting you air this garbage. You're destroying my reputation with anonymous accusations I can't even respond to because you won't tell me who's making them." Production assistants froze at their stations. You could feel the tension radiating through the set like static electricity. Sarah's voice was cool, clinical. "Your reaction right now, the anger, the defensiveness, is exactly what these women described. They said you have a temper when you don't get your way." "So now defending myself is proof I'm guilty?" he shot back. "Innocent people don't usually get this angry over simple questions," Carson said mildly. "Simple questions?" Blake barked. "You just accused me of sexual harassment on national television, and you call that simple?" The silence afterwards was deafening. Only the soft hum of the studio equipment filled the air. Sarah didn't waver. "Mr. Shelton, I understand you're upset. In fact, it's exactly the kind of behavior these women described." Blake's laugh was hollow. "If I get upset, I'm guilty because I'm too emotional. If I stay calm, I'm guilty because I'm not enough emotional. You set up a no-win situation." Carson leaned forward. "We're just asking for your side of the story." "My side?" His eyes burned. "My side is that this is all garbage. I've been in this business for over 20 years. If I was the man you're describing, don't you think something would have come out before now?" "That's a fair point," Jenna conceded. "But these women say they were afraid to speak out because of your influence." "My influence?" Blake's voice cracked. "I'm a country singer from Oklahoma. I don't run labels. I don't control radio. I can't make or break careers." Sarah's tone was skeptical. "Come on, Mr. Shelton. You've been a coach on The Voice for years. You have influence." Blake sat heavily back in his chair. "Exactly why I go out of my way to protect young artists, not exploit them." Sarah glanced at her tablet. "One source says that during a meet and greet last summer, you told a young fan she had the look of a star but needed to lose 15 pounds to make it." Blake went pale. "I would never say something like that to anyone. That's not who I am." "We have multiple witnesses," Carson said. "Multiple witnesses to something that never happened," Blake replied firmly. "I talked to fans for hours at every show, but I'd never tell someone they needed to lose weight." Jenna hesitated before asking, "Blake, have you been drinking more lately?" Blake's eyes narrowed. "Are you kidding me right now? Now you're implying I'm an alcoholic? What's next? Drugs? Gambling?" "We're just trying to understand if something's changed," Carson said. "There is no change," Blake shouted, standing again. "There are no incidents." Sarah remained calm. "Mr. Shelton, getting angry isn't helping your case. You want to know how I'm reacting?" He pointed at the camera. "Like someone whose life's work is being destroyed by lies. Like someone ambushed on live TV." Jenna tried to regain control. "Blake, nobody set you up. We're journalists. These aren't questions, Jenna. They're accusations disguised as questions." Carson glanced at his notes again. "One woman claims you offered to help her career in exchange for personal favors. How do you respond to that?" Blake froze, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't even. That's disgusting." "We're just reporting what these women told us," Sarah said smoothly. "I don't know why they'd lie," Blake admitted finally. "Maybe someone put them up."
"I don't know why they'd lie," Blake admitted finally. "Maybe someone put them up to it. Maybe they're confusing me with someone else. But I know this. They're lying." The studio lights burned hot, flooding the small set with an unnatural glare. Cameras glided silently on their tracks, their black lenses like unblinking eyes that refused to miss a single flicker of emotion. Blake Shelton sat center stage, his posture rigid, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on Carson as if daring him to keep going. Carson pressed on relentlessly, leaning just far enough forward to make the distance between them feel suddenly intimate and adversarial at the same time. "Another source," Carson said slowly, letting the words hang in the air like smoke, "claims you made inappropriate advances toward her after a show in Nashville." Blake's face turned ashen. His expression froze, but his eyes flared. He repeated Carson's words back at him, as though turning them over for inspection. "Physical contact?" he asked, voice low but edged with steel. "What kind of physical contact? Because if you're implying what I think you're implying, you better have some pretty solid proof." Sarah, seated to Carson's right, consulted her tablet with a quick swipe of her fingers. Her voice was measured and deliberate, each syllable chosen to land with precision. "She says," Sarah read, "you grabbed her arm and pulled her close, then whispered something inappropriate in her ear." Blake let out a short, incredulous laugh and shook his head slowly. "This is unbelievable," he muttered to himself. Then louder for the cameras. "Absolutely unbelievable. I've never grabbed any woman inappropriately in my life. Never." Jenna, seated opposite him, leaned back in her chair, her gaze sharp and searching. "But 3 different women can't all be wrong, can they?" she asked. "Have you considered that possibility?" "Coached by whom and why?" Blake threw his hands up in frustration, the movement sudden and sharp. "I don't know. That's what you should be investigating instead of ambushing me on live television." Sarah's tone didn't waver. She kept her eyes on her notes. "Mr. Shelton, these women came to us independently. They didn't know about each other's stories until we brought them together." "How convenient is that?" Blake shot back instantly. The camera caught everything. The tightening of his mouth, the narrowing of his eyes, the way his chest rose and fell a little faster now. His usual charm, the easygoing humor fans knew him for, was gone, replaced by raw desperation and simmering anger. "Question, Blake," Carson said after a pause, almost as if savoring the moment. "One final question. If you had to guess, why do you think these women would target you specifically? What makes Blake Shelton worth lying about?" Blake stared at him for a long, tense beat. "You know what?" he said finally. "That's the first intelligent question you've asked all morning. And the answer is, I have absolutely no idea. But I intend to find out." The threat in his voice was unmistakable. Something shifted in the room. Sarah's confident facade flickered, if only for a heartbeat, before she masked it again. But Blake saw it. "Mr. Shelton," Sarah said, her pen hovering over her notepad, "are you threatening these women?" Blake's eyes narrowed. "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm saying I'm going to find the truth. There's a difference, though I'm not surprised you can't tell the difference between fact and fiction." Jenna shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Blake, maybe we should take a break. Let everyone cool down." "No," Blake said firmly. leaning back into his chair as though anchoring himself. No breaks. You wanted to do this on live television, so let's finish it on live television. I've got some questions of my own now. Carson blinked, surprised. Questions for us? That's right, Blake said, his voice steadying for the first time since the interview began. He turned his attention to Sarah. You said you're an investigative reporter. What publication do you work for? Sarah hesitated, just enough for the pause to matter. I'm freelance. I work for several outlets. Name them, Blake pressed, his gaze never leaving her face. Sarah's chin lifted slightly. That's not relevant. It's relevant, Blake cut in, smiling for the first time, though the expression was anything but warm. It's relevant. It's relevant because I'm starting to wonder who's paying for this hit job. So I'll ask again, what outlets do you work for? Jenna tried to step in. Blake, sir's credentials aren't what we're here to discuss. Actually, they are, Blake said, turning on her, because a real journalist would have contacted me or my reps before ambushing me on live television. A real journalist would have given me a chance to respond privately first. A real journalist would have verified these claims before broadcasting them to millions. Carson cleared his throat. Blake, we did try to reach your team. When? When did you try? Because my manager, my publicist, and my lawyer are all sitting in green rooms right now, and none of them heard from you before this morning. Silence. Sarah looked down at her notes, avoiding his eyes for the first time. Blake leaned in slightly, pressing his advantage. And another thing, these three women, who supposedly don't know each other, they all contacted you, Sarah. Out of every journalist in the country, they all just happened to find the same freelance reporter? Sometimes these things snowball, Jenna offered weakly. Or sometimes they're orchestrated, Blake countered without missing a beat. Sarah, who contacted you first? Was it one of these alleged victims, or was it someone else who suggested you investigate me? Sarah's jaw tightened. I protect my sources, Mr. Shelton. Even the sources who aren't victims? Blake asked pointedly. Even the ones who might have paid you to go after me? Carson leaned forward. Blake, that's a serious accusation. Are you saying Sarah was paid to make up these stories? I'm saying this whole thing stinks, Blake replied flatly. The timing is suspicious. The coordination is suspicious. And the fact that you're all so defensive about simple questions tells me I'm onto something. Jenna looked troubled now. Blake, what are you implying? Blake rose from his chair, not in a burst of anger this time, but with deliberate control. I'm implying someone wanted to destroy my reputation and found three people willing to lie for the right price. I'm implying this isn't journalism, it's character assassination. Sarah's composure cracked. You have no proof of that. You have no proof because you won't answer my questions. But I will get proof, and when I do, I'll expose every single person involved in this conspiracy. Carson laughed dismissively. Conspiracy? Blake, you're starting to sound paranoid. Am I? Blake reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone. Because while you've been grilling me, my team's been making calls. We've already identified two of your so-called victims. Sarah's face drained of color. That's impossible. We guaranteed them anonymity. Blake's grim smile didn't waver. Nothing's impossible when you're innocent and have the resources to prove it. One of your victims? She's been living in Los Angeles for 2 years. Hasn't been to a country music show since she was 12. Care to explain how she ended up on my tour? Jenna's mouth fell open. Blake, is that true? It's true, Blake confirmed, scrolling through his phone. And the second one, currently serving time in county jail for fraud. Interesting choice of witness, don't you think? Sarah shuffled her papers, visibly rattled. There must be some mistake. The only mistake, Blake cut in coldly, was thinking you could get away with this. And the third woman? My lawyers are tracking her down as we speak. I have a feeling her story will fall apart like the others. Carson tried to salvage the segment. Blake, even if some details are wrong, that doesn't mean the core allegations are false. Blake turned directly to the camera. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. America, listen to me carefully. I have never, ever behaved inappropriately toward any woman at any time. These allegations are completely fabricated, and I'm going to prove it. He swung his gaze back to the hosts. And when I do, I'll hold everyone accountable. Everyone. Sarah stood abruptly. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Sit down, Blake commanded, his voice deep and unyielding. Jenna looked between them, clearly out of her depth. Maybe we should end the interview. No, Blake said. We finish this now. Sarah, call one of your sources, right now, on live TV. Let's see if they'll repeat their allegations when the whole world's watching. Sarah's face had gone pale. I can't. It would compromise their safety. Their safety? Blake echoed with a bitter laugh. Or their lies. Carson made one last attempt to calm the storm. Blake, maybe take this chance to apologize for any misunderstandings. Apologize? Blake's voice was sharp. For being falsely accused? For having my career attacked by lies? For being ambushed by a third-rate hack? He pointed directly at Sarah. I'll apologize when she apologizes for this pathetic stunt. I'll apologize when she reveals who paid her. I'll apologize when she admits this whole thing is a sham. Sarah gathered her papers and walked off set. Yeah, you're done, Blake called after her. Your career's done. Your credibility's done. And when my lawyers are finished, your bank account will be done too. He turned to Jenna and Carson. I hope you're proud.
Serious, immersive, and emotionally charged, drawing the audience deep into the unfolding drama. You just took part in the most shameful display of yellow journalism I've ever seen. Jenna swallowed hard. Blake, if we were wrong, Blake's laugh was humorless. You didn't just get it wrong, you didn't get it at all. You let her use your platform to smear an innocent man without asking a single question about her motives. Carson stayed defiant. We pursued a story we believed was in the public interest. The only interest you served, Blake said coldly, was your ratings. He faced the camera one last time. Remember what you saw today. This is what happens when accusations replace facts, when gossip replaces truth. Blake walked toward the exit, then paused and looked back. And to whoever orchestrated this, enjoy it while you can, because when the truth comes out, you'll wish you'd never heard my name. He left the set, leaving a silence that seemed to swallow the air. Within hours, his legal team released documentation showing the accusers had never been in the same state as Blake during the alleged incidents. The third accuser vanished entirely. It was the day Blake Shelton turned the tables on live TV.